Welcome to another post-game edition of the Silver Bulletin. I'm James King, Lantern TV sports director. I have here Colin House Hill, Lantern sports editor, and assistant sports editor Edward Sutton. Ed, I wanted to go ahead and get your initial thoughts of this game.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the offense looked generally improved from last week's game against Oklahoma. JT Barrett looked a little bit out of rhythm with his receivers to begin the game, but as the game went on, he seemed to connect with them a lot better. You know, in the first half, you see a couple of overthrows. Terry McLaurin could have caught a pass, didn't quite make the catch. There was another pass that was overthrown that could have been a deep touchdown as well. But then in the second half, he seemed a lot more in sync with his receivers. He hit McLaurin in stride in the end zone. He had another 59-yard pass to Marcus Ball as well. And then I thought J.K. Dobbins, again starting at running back, had turned in another outstanding game. He averaged something like 15 yards per carry, had a couple of big carries in the second half. He seems to be establishing himself as the top running back for Ohio State.
Now, Colin, what did you see?
Well, one of the things that the story of the game on offense to me is the fact that they didn't have a single 3 and out. And after the game last week, both Urban Meyer and Kevin Wilson mentioned that they want the offense to flow better. They want this thing to click. And at points it did, and I think that is the one takeaway that I have from this game. That's what Urban Meyer and the offense should take away from it. Sure, there were moments where JT overthrew a couple of people, and then he and Austin Mack had what was either a terrible throw or a miscommunication.
Yeah.
We'll never know, but it was one of the two where it was almost an interception. That's my main takeaway. I think there were positives and negatives when you get into the specifics of it, but both that the offense seemed to click, and J.K. Dobbins and Paris Campbell honestly look like guys they can rely on in the future. That's what I take away, at least on offense.
Now, are we ready to say that J.K. Dobbins should be the starting running back for this team, even if Mike Weber does come back even healthier, because he still doesn't look 100%? Are we ready to say that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Be bold.
I don't know that it's quite that time just yet. I think that the numbers would certainly indicate that he's ready to be the starter. But we saw Mike Weber during practice today, practicing with the ones. So I think that even if people outside of Ohio State are ready to say that he's the number one guy, I don't think that Urban Meyer and the rest of the Ohio State coaching staff are quite there yet. Dobbins has certainly done enough to prove it, but I think they're going to hold off on naming him the number one guy just yet.
I actually agree, but I think that if they actually thought that, they would have given him a little more carries. That's my personal opinion. So I agree, even though I think maybe he should be, I agree that I don't think that the coaching staff believes that he is just yet.
Yeah, now, Chris Worley, we heard after the game, was a little banged up, had a sprained foot, I think they called it, and Tough Borland got to get in there and get some tackles. I think he ended up leading the team in tackles. He was flying around the field. Do you think that maybe that the defense played well, and they played well with Borland in there making tackles? Is that something that we should expect to see, or you think Chris Worley's going to get back in there?
No, don't expect to see that. It'll be Chris Worley going forward. I think it was great for Tough Borland to have an experience, especially against Army, where they just run, and then throw an incompletion, and then run. That's what he needs as that experience. Now, obviously, it'll be different when he has to drop into pass coverage, but he's someone that I think can take a ton of experience, take a ton out of this experience.
Now, we did see Dwayne Haskins come into the game for the first time at the end of the last drive. There's still a lot of fans in this fan base that are clamoring for a quarterback change, even on the day where JT Barrett broke the Big Ten touchdown responsible for a record. I believe he was near perfect, if not perfect, on that drive. Was there anything special you saw from Dwayne?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly was accurate, and I think that it's tough to have too many takeaways from what was really garbage time. You know, it was the last couple of minutes of the game, last couple of drives. He did look solid, I thought, but he didn't do enough to obviously overtake JT as the starter, and quite honestly, I don't know if we're going to see that for a while. He's got the potential, but you didn't even see him unleash for like a deep ball. He's not really that kind of mobile quarterback that Ohio State likes, so he certainly looks solid, and I think he's established that he's a capable backup for now. But I think that at least for the foreseeable future, he's primarily just going to see his snaps more later in the game if Ohio State has a big lead.
Which they will, because they play a terrible schedule here, which is actually in favor. That helps out Dwayne because he can get that experience, but honestly it helps out JT a lot too, because we don't really know what they can take away from this game. Do we think that the offense is fixed? I mean, I don't. But do I think that it's improved? Sure. But is that just because they played Army?
Yeah,
Maybe.
Could this be something that got them on a repair scam? Was talking about it after the game, saying that maybe this boosted their confidence.
I mean, I'm sure it boosts their confidence. It couldn't have got worse after last week. But I mean, the thing is, we're gonna have to try and weed through what we think is real and what we think isn't. I don't know what was real out of this yet. I really, what I think is real is I think J.K. is real. I think Paris is good, not great, but I think he's someone who they're going to rely on. And I do think when they're at their best, which they were a couple times in this game, they're just hitting. They're not getting 3 and outs. They're hitting multiple plays for lesser yardage, and they're extending these long drives, which they didn't, especially in the first half against Indiana and the entire game against Oklahoma.
Well, you heard it here from Colin. He said don't get too excited, basically. That's what he was trying to say. That's all we have for you for this week's Silver Bulletin. So be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Snapchat. I'll see you next week.